Now, a son of embattled music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been accused of sexual assault. A lawsuit filed in LA Superior Court on Thursday accuses Christian King Combs.
Check this out, y'all. This is Diddy. This is my son, King Combs. And I've been watching my pops since I was a kid. And I'm proud of you, boy.
The courtroom in Los Angeles was absolutely stunned when the defense lawyer brought up claims about Christian Combs allegedly targeting minors at these so-called freak-offs. You could just feel the atmosphere in the room change instantly. It was thick with tension. Christian, looking completely drained, pushed back from the table and simply walked out as the cameras flashed. Just like that. No polite nods, no apologies. He practically bolted through the exit doors, even blowing past his own legal team. That hearing really boiled down to one unbelievable piece of information, the kind of moment journalists live for. The accusations were that these crazy yacht parties involved kids. It wasn't that Christian was running away from the court when he suddenly left. It was damage control that was the issue. Because once that lawyer suggested that minors were being brought to these events, the story became way more serious than any of the initial news reports.
Yeah, I ain't hear about that raid. I only heard about the LA and Miami raid. But you feel like the feds, they released that video over King Combs' comments.
Well, man, I've worked in law enforcement for 27 years, and I had the opportunity to see HIDA. It's a place, whereas they have the state, the feds, the NYPD, the Department of Corrections, and the state police. Yo, this place could be half of a basketball court. That's where they just got lines of computers with officers of all different people and officers just on the internet. Whoever's over that case, whoever's working that case, don't you know they saw that and took it to their boss?
Me and my dog, and my son right here, first born to everyone wants to be on. Her name is Bailey. I think so. It's something. Get up. Who's your daddy? Especially the Downs. I know. Downs.
Hard to get him to call somebody. He like, it's too much work. Like, so happy birthday, Christian. Thank you everybody for coming and cheers. Don't stop. 27. 27.
It's Sunday.
It's Sunday.
We don't got no job.
We don't got no job.
And we don't got nothing to do.
And we don't got nothing to do. Cause you have to do that together.
His attorney produced audio recording transcripts to support the allegation. A young woman called Grace Omar Kate is shown in those videos, which were made by a producer in a makeshift yacht studio, turning down advances that she claims escalated into violence after she believes tequila shots were tampered with. In late December 2022, Grace was hired as a servant aboard the boat, Sean Diddy Combs. On a family vacation, she assumed she would be serving supper and drinks. Rather, she talks about constant partying, a cast of suspected sex workers who came and went, and concoctions that made some pass out after only one drink.
Now, a son of embattled music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been accused of sexual assault. A lawsuit filed in LA Superior Court on Thursday accuses Christian King Combs of sexually assaulting and possibly drugging a woman in December 2022. The woman says it happened while she was working on a yacht that Diddy had chartered. This comes just over a week after homes owned by Diddy were raided in LA and Miami as part of a federal human trafficking investigation. Neither the attorneys for Combs or Diddy have commented on the new legal complaint.
In a new lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs' second son, Christian Combs, is accused of sexually assaulting a crew member working on a super yacht. That suit was filed here in Los Angeles. Attorneys representing former yacht stewardess Grace Omar say she was sexually assaulted on board a yacht when she was 25 years old in December of 2022 by Diddy's son, rapper Christian Combs. They say his dad, Sean Combs, leased the yacht and had full control of its staff and the premises. Omar's lawyers say Combs turned what was sold as a wholesome family excursion into a hedonistic environment. They stated, quote, defendant Sean Combs fostered and encouraged an environment of debauchery. There was always a party atmosphere filled with suspected sex workers, suspected laced alcohol, violence, and sheer disrespect of women and the yacht's crew. The lawsuit also contains photos of bruises that Omar's lawyers say she suffered when Christian Combs violently grabbed her and attempted to force her to perform a sex act. They also included a transcript of an audio recording which they say captures Omar being forced to consume suspected laced shots of tequila
The carefree clip comes just days after a yacht steward filed a lawsuit against Christian, alleging he sexually assaulted her in December 2022.
Victim in the case has produced audio recordings that allegedly shows forcing himself upon her and that he wouldn't take no for an instant.
The woman says it all happened during what was supposed to be a wholesome family excursion with Christian and his father.
Check this out, y'all. This is Diddy. This is my son, King Combs. And I've been watching my pops since I was a kid. And I'm proud of you, boy.
She says Diddy was the one chartering the yacht for the trip.
This lawsuit is bad for Diddy. He may be able to get out of it, but the optics are terrible when he's already facing a criminal investigation. This may be the nail in the coffin.
She claims that Christian was quite drunk when he arrived, forced her to get tequila shots, and then proceeded to grope her chest, legs, and worse. She resisted him and scurried away, even attempting to force oral sex, only to have him find her in the sleeping room that had been converted into a movie theater, shut the entrance and attack once more before someone stepped in. According to her complaint, the emotional repercussions were severe. Seizures, eating disorders, panic attacks, and suicide thoughts ensued. She sued both Combs men for sexual assault, harassment, emotional distress, and premises responsibility. And the court complaint included audio recordings and pictures of the marks on her arm.
Focusing on Christian Combs. Markey says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but that he would come onto the yacht in the evening to party. And on December 28, 2022, Christian reportedly arrived very intoxicated and then proceeded to pressure Markey to take shots of tequila. She did. Christian allegedly tried to get her to drink more in the yacht's makeshift studio. Markey alleges that Christian kissed her neck, kissed her face, as he groped her legs, breasts, and private areas. Markey reportedly told Christian, quote, "Excuse me, you don't touch my legs like that. I'll move my legs where I want to. If I want to do this, then I will. You don't touch my legs like that." Markey then says that she told Christian she couldn't stay with him unless it was approved by a supervisor, all of whom she knew would be asleep at the time, so this was a way for her to get out of the situation. She claims that Christian said, "Who can I talk to? I'm going to say I requested you right now." Markey then says she responded with, quote, "Well, you can take your hand off my aunts for the first thing."
Markey says this is what happened next. She says she tried to go back to work, but Christian ends up finding her and wants her to find him a place to sleep for the night in the yacht. So she takes him to the cinema room of the yacht. And that is when she claims Christian stopped her from leaving, groped her, took off all of his clothes, and tried to force her to perform oral sex on him. Now, she says she was allegedly able to fight him off. Someone walks into the room, and then she was able to leave. And she said when she reported this to the captain, according to her, the captain berates her. And she alleges that the captain may have even been paid off by Sean Combs to keep quiet about what happened. And I will tell you what's really interesting about this complaint, embedded in the complaint are photographs that purport to be Markey's arms with bruises on them. And that is really interesting. You don't usually see that in a complaint like this. All right, so I want to bring on right now criminal defense attorney Mauricio Padilla, friend of the show. He's represented some very high-profile defendants in high-profile cases. Good to see you once again. So I don't think we've had a chance to talk about this lawsuit. And now that the news is reporting that Christian has been served with papers here, why is that significant?
Well, it's significant because anytime that they have the opportunity to continue to remind the public of the malfeasance of Diddy, of Diddy's son, of anything related to sexually inappropriate behavior, sexual assault, it helps. It helps the government continue to, lay out the narrative of how bad Diddy was, how bad Diddy's son was. So I think it's consistent with, what they've been doing, putting it out there and really destroying his character. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything to deserve it. I'm saying it's consistent with what they're doing, whether it's the government or the lawyers that are suing him civilly.
Tyrone Blackburn, Grace's lawyer, wasted no time in court. He described the audio recordings in detail. He described to jurors how GHB and other date rape medications were used to lace cocktails. He made a suggestion that there were additional recordings, tapes he would struggle to play. He then revealed something that nobody had anticipated. The Combs siblings had a history of helping to participate in these freak-offs involving children. Aaron Dyer, his attorney, later referred to Blackburn's lawsuit as lurid and without merit, pledging to have what he called concocted lies dismissed. However, there is ample documentation of each of these acts.
To Miss O'Markey, Jones taped this event with her. Yes, the lawsuit provides transcripts of audio recordings, and these audio recordings purportedly show, or you can hear, kissing sounds, her telling Combs not to touch her, her allegedly asking about whether she was drugged. Now, we haven't heard these tapes here on Law and Crime yet, but if they are what they purport to be, that is a huge piece of evidence. And remember, when we're talking a civil case, when we're talking lawsuits, the burden of proof is much lower than a criminal case. It's just preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not that this happened. So the civil suit accuses Christian of assault, battery, sexual assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. They're a big part of this lawsuit. She goes into the mental anguish that she has gone through, the emotional harm that she has suffered as a result of that. That's important in order to prove.
In his lengthy lawsuit, Lil Rod straight name drops Justin Combs, describing him as someone who solicits prostitutes, underage girls, and sex workers. There's actually a picture of Justin Combs with an allegedly underage girl shown in the lawsuit. Now, in this specific instance, Lil Rod alleges at least one underage girl came to Diddy's home for a listening party. A sex worker was also apparently solicited, and a freak-off ensued. As an aside, this is the same night that Lil Rod alleges Diddy forced him to take a laced shot. He started to feel lightheaded and then woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning, naked next to a sex worker. It's important to note Justin Combs is listed as a defendant on this case because, according to Lil Rod, he facilitated Diddy's alleged RICO enterprise and at times participated.
I think that if we're talking about additional charges and additional defendants, those are probably two of the more likely. And Christian, of course, was the subject of a civil lawsuit where there was a sexual assault allegation naming him directly. So I think if we're going to cast a bit of a wider net, people are talking about family members, other celebrities, maybe some employees like Christina Forum, but I think the most likely would be those two sons.
Why do you think it's the most likely about those two? Just because of the recordings, the allegations against him? What are you thinking?
I think so. I think obviously they're just civil allegations and those cases are going to be put on hold while the criminal case plays out. But, there is some smoke there. And obviously, there's a presumption of innocence and there's a lower standard in the civil case. But you have someone who's been named directly as someone who participated in a sexual assault, and everything else has been rumors and speculation. But here you at least have one verified complaint.
What were these freak-offs then? These were hardly backyard cookouts, according to the prosecution. Diddy organized the sex shows, which were arranged and supported by his own children. Freak-offs are defined in the Manhattan indictment as carefully orchestrated shows in which attendees, including some minors, were coerced into engaging in drug-fueled sexual behaviors as the cameras rolled. Both Combs siblings are named in the lawsuit as more than merely onlookers. They allegedly distributed money, filled the locations with supplies, assisted in recruiting young girls, and even filmed the interactions with their father.
I believe it was Justin, Diddy, and G walked into the bathroom. Gunshots rang out. Little Rod woke up so scared. Justin and Diddy left. Little Rod went in the bathroom, saw G out all over the place, literally called the ambulance, carried him out. It was carnage and everything, put him in the ambulance. The police showed up. Little Rod cited that in his lawsuit, and then they asked for the LAPD's report. The LAPD just released an 18-page report with no mention of any carnage or anyone that actually got shot.
There's also allegations that he actually partook in these freak-offs and potentially drugged women. This is something Lil Rod is saying. How would the feds go about proving something like that? I know that's the pattern we've seen across a lot of these civil suits, that women allege Diddy, for instance, drugged them. But now Lil Rod's also pointing the finger at Justin Combs, saying he drugged some of these women. How would the feds then go to look further into that?
Yeah, Lil Rod's lawsuit is interesting in that there are many defendants. We talked about Christina Horam, right? Some of the allegations that came out in Lil Rod's lawsuit was Christina, of course, being Combs' right-hand woman. She allegedly had the fanny pack with the drugs that were provided to the sex workers. There are the allegations directly against Justin as well. So whenever you're proving something like this, obviously, you're going to rely on the testimony of witnesses. It could be independent witness because the sex workers even though they're participants in a sex act, they won't necessarily be charged, or I don't think they're going to be defendants in the lawsuit if the allegation is that they were forced to perform these sex acts and it wasn't just a commercial trend.
Christian's case is presented against a somber backdrop by those charges. A Manhattan grand jury indicted Diddy on charges of trafficking, racketeering, and other offenses on September 16, 2024. According to the prosecution, he used money and other drugs to coerce women, some as young as 9, into having freak-offs with male sex workers, recorded everything, and used cash and other narcotics to secure compliance. They claim that his empire included accusations of kidnapping, bribery, and arson, but it all depended on sexual behaviors during these gatherings.
It was at I believe to be one of P. Diddy's FreakOFFs.
Now, singer-songwriter Tania Wallace told TMZ's Harvey Levin for the Tubi special, The Downfall of Diddy, Inside the FreakOFFs, she believes she witnessed underage victims at one of Diddy's 2018 parties.
I'm looking like, are those midgets? Because it's people over them, like it's people trying to hide what they're doing.
Adults who are little people, or are you talking about minors?
Am I gonna get in trouble? I don't want to say I witnessed any of that crazy stuff, but we all have common sense. Little people that's not supposed to be there.
You're talking about underage people.
It's a shame.
Is this woman, Tania, is she really saying that there were minors involved in these freak-offs?
That is exactly what she's saying, Billy.
Yeah, the fact, Jake, that the government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise, and they actually named it in the indictment, the Combs Enterprise. And they said that this enterprise consisted of him as the alleged leader, his employees, assistants, staff, allegedly, that were able to procure women and alleged male sex workers to engage in performances for his own sexual gratification. Where it differs from a mob indictment, it has all the elements of putting together this racketeering allegation of all these moving pieces using resources from his businesses. But the fact that this is about an allegation of sexual gratification being accomplished by alleged human trafficking, it's one of the most unique indictments I've ever seen in this area, in the area of sex crime.
First of all, he is not steering away from the idea of the freak-offs. They seem to be saying, yeah, these were called freak-offs, we're going to call them freak-offs, but they're not illegal.
Yeah.
Well, one of the charges he faces is transportation to engage in prostitution. If he's saying, yeah, I hired sex workers, but if he's transporting them and paying for them, I feel like it's going to be very, very difficult to argue he's not guilty of that charge. We talked last time about how he tried to get it dismissed from the case, basically saying it's a racist charge, but it's going in.
Yeah, so Diddy just walked into the courtroom like he normally does. He hugged all of his attorneys. He, dabbed up Mark Agnifilo. I think he was kind of searching in the gallery to see if he had family there, because when court had first started, nobody was there from his family. And I think he kind of looks forward, and I'm just speculating here, obviously I'm not in his mind, but I think he looks for people, especially his mom, to be inside that courtroom in the gallery. But today it was just Justin Combs all by himself. I think in the moment when he had first walked into the courtroom, it was a little bit after it had started, he kind of was like clearing his throat. I don't know if it was because he actually had to clear his throat, or if it was to get his father's attention, just to let him know that he is.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but Diddy did turn around a couple of times. I don't know if it was to see if more of his family came in, or just to kind of like check in with Justin during that. But he seems to always kind of be more excited to see his family inside that.
Homeland Security officers conducted raids on Diddy's residences in New York, Miami, and Los Angeles in March 2025. They confiscated a pile of lubricant party records, firearms, and devices. Christian was temporarily held for interrogation, but no charges were brought. During the Miami raid, Christian was cuffed in his father's house in Los Angeles, but he managed to escape unharmed. Diddy's team referred to it as an ambush and stated that both men will forcefully defend themselves against unfounded charges. The optics were horrible, though. The boy is facing a horrific civil suit, and the father is facing a federal indictment.
The father of 7 also broke his silence on social media, posting these photos of his 17-month-old daughter with the caption, quote, "Happy Easter from baby love." Diddy's 26-year-old son, Christian, who was handcuffed and questioned during the LA raid, also posted for the first time. He says, quote, "Stop with the caps," which is slang for loved.
There's a whole
public relations side of this, Diddy is going to want to put up a front of an innocent person. And sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Right now, investigators are going through the evidence that they seize. What they're really looking for are videos of the alleged sexual abuse. If prosecutors have that information, we're talking about days or weeks before Diddy is charged. He may go to prison for the rest of his life.
Inside the home, federal agents can be seen using a drone. Then the video shows Diddy's son Christian with his hands in the air, pressed against the wall, then handcuffed. Diddy's son Justin then appears with his hands on his head. The agents then appear to take him down a hallway. The release clip ends with what appears to be another man who is dragged out of the home and on the driveway by agents. Photos of the aftermath show Diddy's sons Christian and Justin on the lawn of the LA home while agents seemingly continued their search. Justin Combs' mom released a statement along with the video slamming the federal agents for the way they handled the raid. The statement reads, quote, "The overzealous and overtly militarized force used against my sons Justin and Christian is deplorable. If these were the sons of a non-black celebrity, they would have not been handled with the same aggression. The attempt to humiliate and terrorize these innocent young black men is despicable."
I'm not surprised she posted it. She has to, they have to control the narrative. And do their best to control the narrative, and frankly, that's her right. If she has that data, that to do what she wants. I don't think it helped the situation. I don't think it helped her son or or Sean Diddy. I think it may have just you still have human beings you're dealing with on both sides of the table, and basically kind of amping this up. I don't think that solves anything for anybody. It's a matter of, is the public going to be sympathetic to a billionaire and his problems and his issues? This isn't something that happened, in an unfortunate instance in a lower socioeconomic area of Los Angeles or New York or Cleveland. This is in Hollywood with a $50 million mansion with luxury cars out front. And dealing with a billionaire, and then they had another one in Miami. I don't think the American people or the public are like having a whole lot of sympathy for anybody right now.
Christian was pursuing a career independent of his father. In 2022, his single Cannot Stop, Will Not Stop peaked at #1 on the R&B charts, and he introduced the younger luxury sneaker brand. He was genuinely ambitious. However, Christian Combs is now associated with scandal in every headline. Social media users flocked to his posts, with some criticizing him and others supporting him. Some insisted that he respond to the rumors on television. He remained mute and adhered to what his lawyer had said. But in the court of public opinion, silence following a walkout says a lot.
Boy, I was upgraded from my last lawyer. Going to reach Keisha and Joy. And now you're giving me and Joy. Shut the mic. I was locked 23 M.
We're not getting practice shots. He thought just sleep. Practice shots, because we got the legend in the building. Yeah, y'all know what it is. Mr. Christian Combs, King, the one and only. Yes, sir. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna get right into it. Music. That's good. Yeah, I got my new music, Legacy, dropping. It's about to be crazy. When is dropping? Let us know. Let us know some exclusive. 15th October. All right. When you see this, it might be out.
Nah, you gonna see it tomorrow. He working hard. This dropping tomorrow.
It ain't Cardi's. Cardi's dropping soon. It's gonna be a digital. The elves. But I keep it real. Ever since we've been in LA like 4 years, we've been running to you, like hearing that, see you grow, like from developing like artists to like just being cool. At first we met you, was like we just knew you was cool. Then start dropping music.
What role do you think it's possible Christian Combs could play in his father's criminal case?
The government loves superseding indictments. The government loves indicting your relatives. Why? Nothing is worse. Right now, Diddy's sitting in a jail cell. What could be worse? The thought of your son also sitting in a jail cell. So if they can prove it and they have him committing crimes and they can involve him in a superseding indictment, I don't see why they wouldn't. They do it all the time in narco cases and in other cases that I've worked on. And it seems to me like Diddy wasn't or never created these broad defined lines between his children and the alleged illegal acts that he was committing. So it's completely possible that they could get wrapped up in a superseding indictment.
A request to dismiss is the next step in Christian's civil struggle. According to Dyer, there are numerous flaws in Grace's lawsuit, including the absence of logs demonstrating the presence of children, metadata on the recordings, and evidence that the tequila shots were tampered with. Grace might never have her day in court if the judge rules in favor of Dyer. However, the discovery might compel both parties to produce emails, guest lists, and yacht manifests, and require witnesses to appear under oath if Blackburn persuades the judge that there is sufficient evidence. Years may pass throughout that process, and the public and media will continue to focus on Christian's courtroom exit.
For Abnormally daily and consistent content, let's get straight into this video. If Christian Combs isn't working with Diddy on the side when it comes to violating BOP rules and contacting the Sons, if Christian Combs isn't working with Kanye West, who's doing all of these crash outs and going to his house, accepting gifts from Kanye, if Christian Combs not trying to jump Ray J, or, trying to put up these happy birthday messages and dead reality TV shows, this man is also now officially being served for significant allegations of SA on a yacht that he was.
In a statement to ET, Diddy and Christian's attorney said, "This complaint is filled with manufactured lies and irrelevant facts," adding, "We will be filing a motion to dismiss this outrageous claim." The new lawsuit comes as Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, spoke out on the Art of Dialogue YouTube channel, making new claims about Diddy's notoriously wild parties.
People know there's drugs, there's alcohol, there's loose women, there's loose men, all kind of crazy ways. I don't think it's only celebrities going to be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there. He also had a couple of preachers.
The federal prosecution against Diddy is accelerating nationwide, with a trial scheduled for May 5th, 2025 in Manhattan. Jury selection is imminent. At least 5 accusers have already been lined up by prosecutors, including Cassie Ventura, who reached a settlement in 2023. Propensity witnesses, or victims who will testify about FreakOFFS and other wrongdoing, are what they hope to utilize to demonstrate Diddy's pattern. Although it may not be as prominent in New York, Christian's courtroom drama in Los Angeles supports the prosecution's story of a history of abuse in the family. The battle is far from finished for Grace. She wants to be known for breaking the law, not simply for the money. Being a whistleblower can have deadly consequences, as her entire lawsuit against Christian Combs serves as a reminder.
A legal drama, once again facing Sean P. Diddy Combs, who's already the subject of a federal state trunk investigation. Just yesterday, Christian Combs, Diddy's 26-year-old son, was named in a new lawsuit alleging sexual assault by a woman working on a yacht in 2022. Sean Combs is being sued for premises liability as the person who chartered the yacht and for aiding and abetting his son in the alleged assault. Well, here's the deal. Right now, anything associated with P. Diddy is considered cancerous. He could be guilty of the allegations that have been levied against him. His son could be guilty of the allegations that have been levied against him. But the reality is that even if they're not guilty of such things, their name has been tainted severely. And usually something like this happens when you create enemies in the wrong places. Usually it's not just a byproduct of your act or your actions. There's something else that's going on here. But you've seen people get accused of things a lot of times. But the tsunami of things that are coming in the direction of P. Diddy and his family.
There are a lot of questions raised by this story. After that spectacular departure, can Christian clear his name? Will the specter of FreakOFFS ever leave him? What does it say about the privilege that allowed these events to take place if there were actually kids present? If you have been following this narrative, please subscribe and hit like for each new development. Leave a comment below with your opinions. Does Christian's walkout, in your opinion, demonstrate guilt or merely a son protecting his reputation? In any case, we will remain here, searching sealed tapes and court documents until the verdict is rendered. We appreciate your time and we'll see you in the upcoming update.